how'd you first get started in like blue collar work?
Well, so like I knew for sure that I didn't want to go to college. I'm not like a bookwork kind of guy. Never have been. Not that I'm bad at it or anything. It was just not for me. I can't sit behind a desk and just work my life away sitting down. There's just no way that was ever going to happen. And so one of my good friends, his dad was, in the line trade. And when I saw the life he was able to provide for him and his family, his wife was never had to work and that kind of thing. As soon as I saw that, I said, whatever he does, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned he became a lineman. And not that in the future, like, if I get a wife or whatever and they want to work, that's one thing. But at least if they don't want to and they want to take care of the house and take care of kids and do all that, I wanted to make sure that, that was a possibility.
Yeah, you're like financially set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I chose to do, line work, and wasn't necessarily, just chose to do blue collar, but something that, was just going to set me and whoever I have, that I support, up and be able to do better than I was raised. So I know I want to have, a college fund for my kids, and I want to have, all that kind of stuff that comes along. Not worrying about bills, not worrying about how, the mortgage is going to get paid. And so that's where all that kind of started.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I didn't like school at all. I was like, nah, this shit ain't for me. And I think I was like 12 or 13 when I seen my grandpa welding on a tractor, and I thought it was cool. And I was like, I want to try it. So he let me try it a few times, and so I kind of was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted to do. So I knew I always wanted to be. I always thought since I was like 7 or 8 years old. I remember my grandma. We were leaving the skate park one day, and she's like, "Well, what do you want to do for a living?" And I was like, "I want to be a professional BMX rider." She's like, "Well, why?" And I was like, "Because it's fun, it's cool, and they're famous and rich."
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't really care about the fame part, but I was like, I just want to be set in life. Like I would know I want to have money.
Yeah.
I knew that is what always took getting the things that you wanted. So I was like, need to figure out how to make some money. But so.
It's always turning those things that you want to do into how can it be profitable into real life.
Yeah.
How can I make this into a living? That's always can be hard, because you want to do one thing, but it's how can I make that be a full-time thing that I get to do what I love every single day, but make a good living.
Your mic up a little bit.
My bad.
No, you're good.
So, but yeah, like, and that's where that line stuff came along is, again, since I was 14, 15, ever since I had a car, I was always wiring subsystems, into my car, and whether it be my friends or whatever. But I've always liked working with electrical, whatever it is. And so it just kind of went along with, okay, what's one step above just working with electrical stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe working with electrical that's going to kill you if you screw up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, so when you're I guess I'll jump a few steps back. So you went to school to be a lineman?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. What was going to school like? Like tell me your experience like going into that.
So I can only explain it to the college degenerate. I mean, we're all
yeah.
We're all blue collar guys going for the same thing. And as much as like I went to one that's only 15 weeks, and they're going to put in the same amount of learning as you were if you went to one that was 9 months long.
Yeah.
And so they call it that you're drinking through a fire hose, and you just got to retain the information and do the best you can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I say, we're all blue collar guys that just want to have fun. We're here to learn, but we're also here to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, you know, every single day you had to make sure you were keeping up with your book work, making sure you're ready for the test tomorrow, make all that. And at the same time, you were also needing to balance going to different, clubs or whatever is going to be that night or different.
Yeah.
And that honestly, that's kind of the same way it is even in the trade. Is if the journeymen say we're going here tonight, you can't be the one to back out.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to be the one that's ridiculed tomorrow for being, a pussy in a sense for not coming out. If you can't hang, don't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those, you have your work time and you have your fun time, and you just need to find a good balance of both of them and make it work. Otherwise, you're just not going to make it out in the trade. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that when I went to Texas and worked in the oil field. It's kind of like, well, some of the jobs it depended on, there was no balance to it. It was like, yeah, you're just not going to get any sleep that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it was even when I was doing line work in the oil field. We had one that was a 36 hours straight, no break, no, you're just on the line and you're going to figure it out. So
Yep. Yeah, that's what the very first oil field job I had. It was working on derricks, like oil rigs, working on like the wash bays and shit. And so, we both worked with each other there at the job I still currently work at. And so I thought it was like regular shop work, you're working an 8, maybe 10-hour day. I know it was long. I heard long hours, so, maybe 12. Well, I figured, we'd go somewhere for lunch. Well, first day I go out, we leave around like 9 in the morning. And it's like a 5-hour drive out to this derrick in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. And we're working out of Midland, Texas. Mm-hmm. And so we get out there. And it's like 3 in the afternoon, and I'm like, yo, when do you think we're going to get lunch? And they're like, you didn't bring a lunch? And I was like, no. They're like, well, I don't even know when we're leaving. Dude, we literally didn't leave for like 30-some hours.
Yeah.
So I worked 30-some hours straight, and I was like, yo, I don't know how the hell you guys are doing this. I was like, I remember my phone died, and the guy I went down there with, I was staying in his camper, and he had like called and texted me. And I was, like, getting back in the morning at, like, 5 in the morning, like, not the next day, but the day after. And he's like, where have you been? I was like, I've been at work, dude. Like, I'm going to bed. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's like, yeah, fuck this shit, dude. I don't know if I can handle this.
Yeah, and that's how it is. It's like, so in the whole line space, I've never gotten, hey, you have 15 minutes, take a lunch, or you have 30 minutes, take a lunch. If you have any downtime and you brought a sandwich with you or whatever it is, you better be eating it on your quick downtime while you're waiting for whatever it is. Yeah. And eat real quick, because it's about to be over.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you get, and otherwise you're going to be strapping back in and going up on the next pull down the road. So and I know it's the same way in the oil field, because, like I said, I was out there, and you might go 12 hours before you ever see a break. It's just go, 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 go.
Well, and that was one of the weird things. Like, that job in specific was going out and, like, working on the fucking derrick rig. So, like, I wasn't drilling for oil personally, but we would go out there and work on all the equipment and everything. So we're, like, mechanics, I guess, for the derricks and shit. So we go out there and fish or work and fix like the wash bays and like different equipment and stuff that they had out there. So like, one of the derrick rigs could be clearing somewhere in New Mexico or somewhere there in Texas, and you're literally driving there. And like one of the times we went out there, they weren't done drilling, so we literally had to wait 6 hours before that they were done before we could even start our job. So I'm like,
Mhm.
what do we do? Because you don't have any phone service. You're in the middle
Yeah,
of
you're in the
literally
middle of nowhere.
flatlands, like just straight desert. That's all
Yeah.
West Texas. But yeah, so when you went to college, what do you think, or I guess lineman school, what was the hardest thing about lineman school?
So I honestly think both, whether it was field work or school work, was hard. Like, I mean, there was not necessarily an easy piece to it, and that honestly, I guess, would come down to where you're better at. So I thought the school work was harder, just because, again, I'm not a great bookwork kind of person. I can't just sit at home by myself and be flipping through pages and studying a book and just I'm gonna remember it the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, did I get it done? Obviously, yes. But was it not easy? Also, yes. And so, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that when you get out in the field, they might have been great on the bookend portion and learning everything. But when it came to going up and down a 35-foot pole 30 times, in a 3 hour period while it's 120 degrees outside, it also got to him, and you'd be throwing up, just, I mean, dizzy as all could be, and the instructors tell you, hey, you either get up the pole or get down the road, so like I say, for me, it was the bookwork portion was probably the hardest, but I mean, it was a very well mix of, for everybody, of what was the hardest part. It just kind of depends on what you are better with.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me because I worked at for 7 years, running a torch or working through the summers, and so I was pretty used to the heat or pretty used to the cold. Whatever came along, I mean, I can push through it. But I know there's a lot of guys who got straight out of high school and went there, and they're not used to anything but sitting in a classroom setting. And
Yeah, so that that was one of the things was when I graduated, obviously went to worked for like a year and then went down the oil fields, but so like it was super weird cuz I had never experienced it before. So I went from school where there's like all these people around me and like fucking hated school, but you could still just talk to people even though the teacher would yell at you. It's like, "Oh, go to the office." It's like, "Okay, cool. I'm here for 30 more minutes. I got my next class. I can just sit and bullshit with my friends."
yeah,
Because I didn't care about school. I was like, literally, honestly, the only reason why I graduated high school was so I didn't look like a complete idiot, and so it also didn't look bad on my mom. That's honestly the only reason why I graduated school, because I was like, I'm not going to college. Like, literally, my SATs, because the counselor, she's like, you have to take them. I was like, well, I'm not going to college. She's like, well, then what are you going to do in life? This is a counselor. She's like,
and
well, then
I
she
never
literally
took the SATs.
she literally told me I wasn't going to go anywhere in life if I didn't take them. So I was like, okay, bet. Took them within 5 minutes. I just kept clicking random answers. I was like, yeah, I'll play this game. Like, I don't care. And then they were like, there's no way you're done. It takes like 2 hours. I was like, well, it just took me 5. They're like, okay, well, we need to see your score. And I was like, I don't care about my score, dude. Like, I'm not doing that. But yeah, so like I went to work, like right out of high school, the day after I graduated, like graduation, day after, took a piss test, started working. And after like a month or two into it, I was like, dude, this shit sucks. Cause like there's no
than what you think.
Yeah, there's no like social point to it. Like there's like talk a little bit on our lunch break or whatever, but and it could just be that specific environment, because like I've worked a couple other places where like you'd have some social life a little bit more. Yeah,
and you're gonna bullshit and you're gonna
but like everyone there is older than me, so like I'm not sitting there socializing with anyone. So
and that's even where, so even when I left come to where I'm at now, most of the people I work with are 40 plus, so even when it comes down to just socializing, you're always considered the young buck, or however they want to say it, and guy will be talking, and you just can't relate because guy's got a wife and 3 kids and a mortgage and you're like, well, okay, I bought a new dirt bike last week.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of hard to relate to them sometimes.
Yeah, so
because you're in a completely different spot in your life than they are.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I remember one of the jobs I was working on. So, like, how you were saying, if, like, the foreman shit's going out, like, you're going out, too. Well, I remember, like, our foreman and a bunch of guys were going out, but the straw boss, he was pretty fucking old. He was older than
What do you mean by
nails.
straw boss? I've never heard that term before.
I'll be real honest. I don't know his exact position, but that's what we call him. But kind of like a foreman in a way. But I think that they kind of just like overlook everything.
Are they like necessarily over like your foreman? Like they're telling the foremans what to do, or like a general foreman kind of position, or?
I'll be honest. I'm not 100% sure just because I never really had to deal with any foremans or anything. Like, most of the time I was down there, I was the helper. So, like, I didn't really have to, like, talk to anybody. I just fucking...
Just do whatever you're a helper, so you're there for this guy.
I was
just
the
kind of
bitch.
do whatever that guy
I was
says.
told to do.
Yeah,
Shit,
okay.
So. But, I mean, there for a while, though, like, the guy I went down there with, he let me weld sometimes, especially on, like, when we were building, like, launcher pads, which is, like, it's, like, I think it's, like, 15 or 20 foot wide, but, like, 40 foot long, made out of I-beams. But there's also, like, I-beam braces in between there. But you had to, like, torch out the notches so the I-beam fit with inside the other I-beam, and then it had to be welded all the way around. And especially on stuff like that, because it was all fab work, we were just sitting in the yard, which is, like, where they store, like, different pipe, torch equipment, bottles, welding.
And I know on, like, pipe that it gets completely tested. So
yeah, everything gets
x-rayed. Even on that fabrication work stuff, does that also get tested?
Yeah, that all gets x-rayed, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, in all reality, so there's like 4 or 5 of us that were welding on it. And so it didn't exactly track down to like, oh, this welder welded this joint. So if a weld was bad on there, it couldn't be like, oh, well, that's a strike against that welder. Because it's like a 3-strike deal. Like if you get 3 repairs, you're fired. So your welds have to be fucking good each and every time. You get 3 repairs. So if, say, you make a weld, you go to the next one, x-ray truck comes up, shoots their x-ray, and they're like, hey, they're slagging this one, that's 1 repair. If you got to go
you
back.
You got to come through and grind that out and completely re-weld it, don't you?
Yeah. And also, you only get 1 cutout. So a cutout means if that weld's fucked and they have to completely torch that shit off and re-bevel it, re-weld it all, you only get 1 of those.
Okay.
Unless it's the laborer's fault. So, like, the labor hands, pipe fitters, what they call them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not trying to talk on shit that people do that job, but anybody can fucking do it. You just throw some signs out to the guy with a boom arm. So it's like a dozer, but it has an arm off the side that holds the pipe in the air, and they lower it, raise it, angle it a little bit. And then depending upon the size of the pipe, they'll have something to fit up around it, and then you kind of hammer it in, and then so it clamps the 2 pieces of pipe together. But the seams on both pieces of pipe have to line up with each other. So if there's a seam on this side of the pipe and the seam is on this side of the pipe, well, x-ray will come through and see that, and then you have to go back, cut that out, and redo it all. Because it has to match up, and it has to do with the strength.
Okay.
So the pipe doesn't explode from pressure and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not
the engineer
of all that shit, but that's just how it is. But yeah, so there's lots of like little things that I don't know, some people might not know or think of, but so like out on the line, they know because you'll, depending upon the size of the pipe, um, so anywhere around like, especially like 12-inch pipe and bigger, you'll have what's called a brother-in-law welder. So there'll be a person on this side of the pipe, a person on that side of the pipe.
Like sort of the top and meet
Yeah.
at the, you know.
Yeah, so a guy will be on this side, guy will be on this side, and they both start at the top and work all the way around it to the bottom. And so they'll know who did the right side, who did the left side. So if there's a weld that's fucked up, they can be like, hey, you welded that, you need to fix that or whatever. So everything's tracked out there, especially mainline. Like, that's all. I mean, everything's x-rayed, but everything's x-rayed, like, within, I don't know, an hour or two of it being welded. So x-ray, so as you're moving, so you'll have what's called the root welder. So it'll be person here, welds the root, and then there will be the hot pass, which is one that goes around on top of it. That's hot pass, obviously. And then, so that's kind of your filler. And then the next one behind it is the person that throws the cap on there. And depending upon the size of the pipe and the size of the bevel, like the thickness of it, will depend upon how many passes, how many hot passes, and how many caps are on it.
Yeah. So what do you think about even, because everywhere I've found that the oil field will pay you better than anything around here. I mean, it's just simple.
Yeah, straight facts.
But so what do you think about being out there versus being home to try to like have a family and have, you know, do you think it's worth it to go out and be on the road for, you know, 2 weeks out and 1 week back like a lot of them are or do?
So this is my personal experience, and this is just me and because of the person I am and who I am and what I'm like. But me personally, I couldn't live and work on the road while being married and have kids and all
like
that.
a family man.
Yeah, because, like, I can be one of the two. I can't be both. And that's just personally me because, like, if I'm on the road, you know, like, how do I word this? I mean, you're going to go out there. There's really nothing to do because you don't know anyone out there besides the other people that you're working with. Well, what are they doing? We're drinking, we're barbecuing, we're going to the bar.
And on top of that, like, you might be working 16-hour days while you're out there. And so even when it comes down to then going out and meeting people, everyone else is doing the same thing. Everyone's tired. Everyone's just going back to work the next day. You know, no one's really out there to make friends. You're there to make money and go home.
Yeah.
That's what the life is.
Yeah, and that's what I really like. I'll salute the people that do that as a family guy because, I mean, that does take a lot. Like, being away from your kids and everything, that takes a lot. Being away from your wife's a lot. But, like, if someone, like, say, if I was in a relationship where it was just, like, me and my wife and we didn't have kids, I could go on the road then. But, like, especially versus where there's kids involved and everything, there needs to be a good home base. And if there's a home base, well, then they're not going to be on the road with me.
Yeah, it's just hard to create a good home life balance.
Yeah.
You know?
In which, when I was on the road, I'm on the fucking road. I'm having fun. I'm hanging out with everyone. Like, I'm a fucking free spirit. So I'm going to be a free person. And, like, I couldn't live that life and be a family man at the same time. Because actually, before I met my wife, literally, like, a week and a half, 2 weeks before I met my wife, I was actually going to go back on the road. But then I was like, well, I'll give her a shot. And then, still here. So that's actually the reason why I even bought the truck that I have, that dually.
Yeah.
Because I was going to go back on the road.
And see, because I've been thinking about going back to Texas just because, I mean, I'm single. I don't have any kids, you know. But the only thing that's holding me back is I know in the end of what I want. So, like, even, yes, I'm on the road now, but I'm only 3-4 hours away from home. I'm not 12 hours away from home. And so like I'm at that point of in a limbo of not sure what to do in that situation. Do I want to go there, make money, pay off all of the loans I have, and just be done with it? Or do I want to be able to try to start like a family of my own and then get into a utility where I get to be home every night? Yeah, you might not make as much money, but you're still set. You're not worried about stuff, but you might not pay everything off as quick. You might not have all the luxuries you'd have,
Yeah.
vice versa. So it's just really hard of trying to figure out what do you want for yourself? Do you want all of this problems gone, or do you want a future with other things?
Um, you want my opinion?
I mean, you can always give it to me.
Okay. Well, so if I were you, this is just my personal choice. I would personally go back on the road, make a bunch of money, and then find a relationship, because even though you're making good money right now, relationships cost a lot of money. Stuff always comes up. And this is also another one of my experiences. You can meet the wrong one and get completely upside down financially.
Been there many times.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've had that experience. So, I mean, I don't know, especially where you don't exactly really have any tie downs right now. I mean, you're a loose cannon. You could go off wherever you want. You know what I mean? Like, you can go to another country if you wanted to.
And see, but that's where I find it hard is that's where I'm at right now. But I know if I also go on the road, I'm probably not going to find that person, or I might pass them up just simply because all I do is work.
Yeah. Oh, it also depends on where you're looking for those ones at, though, too.
That's true.
Yeah. Because even though you are home, it might not be the exact places you want to try and find the forever person.
I
You know
get
what I mean?
that, yeah. So
And I mean, I did the same shit. So I mean, like,
can't judge, but you
yeah,
yo,
no, and I think it's
it's
just
a lot
because
different looking from an outside perspective in.
and I think it's just because I've been there, and then miraculously found a relationship out of nowhere type deal. So it was like I wasn't looking for one, didn't want one. She was like, it was so weird, and like her and I, we've discussed this many times. Of like, she was the complete opposite person of who I was looking for, but like, I seen true effort, her changing, her doing so many different things of like showing me like she wants this relationship. And I'm like, well, shit, okay, well, I'm into her. She's obviously into me because like she's doing all this extra stuff. So like, I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I was like, I've given worse things shots. Like I've gone into relationships knowing that they weren't forever. Like I 100% knew in my mind. I was like, yeah, I know that this is only going to last for a month, 2, maybe 6 months. But yeah, so I mean.
So how much does, I don't know how to put it, like a woman necessarily submitting to you and what you want to do in life and where you want to go, how much does that count into your relationship?
A woman submitting to me?
Yeah.
Kind of means everything.
That and I'm kind of the same way, that I need her to support me in what I want to do.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm against a woman that wants to have their own career and all that stuff. Like, if they want that, that's cool. Do it. That's fucking dope. That's badass. My personal, like, the woman I'm looking for, the woman I have now, I'm not looking for someone that...
You need them to trust your decisions.
What?
You need them to trust your decisions.
Yeah.
Like what?
I don't need to have an argument of like, well, I pay these bills and like, well, this is where I'm going in life, that type of shit. Like, I'm like, hey, this is where I'm taking us. And they're like, okay, cool. What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a homemaker. And that's exactly what my wife does. She's like, she cleans, she cooks, like she takes care of the laundry and all that stuff. And like it's not like I'm like, oh, you have to do this. She feels accomplishment, and she's like, hey, I got the laundry done. I'm like, oh, thanks, babe. You know what I mean? It's not like oh, you have to do this. But like if I see that like she's been working some extra hours and stuff, because like she still works like part-time.
Yeah.
Just to bring in a little extra money so we can still, have a little fun, because this economy is fucking upside down right now. But like if I see that like there's some laundry or some dishes or something, because like I get off fairly early in the evenings, I'll just go ahead and do it.
You're gonna help out where you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and that's where I get where you're saying of you want someone that's gonna take that initiative to help you out and get these other things done without. And they want to. They feel accomplishment by helping you, and that in the end, honestly, helps you get to your goal.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like sometimes I get stressed. Like, not gonna lie, like when I get stressed, I get real irritable real quick. Like little things will irritate me, and I'll get kind of pissed. But like, I would rather have that, even though sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I didn't have to pay so many bills. But in all reality, I like the fact that it gives me more sense of accomplishment. It allows me to feel better about myself. And I'm like, I provide. And she also feels that accomplishment from, cleaning the house and providing us a home. That's
you each have your role in the relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Like I told her one day, because she's like, hey, I got the house clean and everything. And I was like, yo, babe, thank you so much for making our house a home. Like, if it wasn't for you doing all these things, it would just be a house. But she makes it a home. Mm-hmm. Like, she's a home maker.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. And I seen that she had those, I don't know if it's called, like, attributes, but, like, traits or whatever to her. And, like, that's just her. Like, she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. And especially with, like, the work schedule she has, it's like, part-time. So, like, very easy, workable schedule. I mean, if we got shit going on, she can just wait to work a little bit later or something. Like, she goes in when she wants. So, it's, for us, it's, like, perfect, I guess. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And that's the only part, I guess, of, in quotations, the modern women that I guess I don't agree with. Of again, like, if you want to go out and make your own money, do 100% perfect. Like, I will support you 1,000%.
Yeah.
And I'll help you around the house. I'll help you whatever you need. And then at the same time, a lot of them are also, I do all this for myself. I don't need to do this. And so I know a lot of guys who also then are working, full-time jobs, providing, and then also have to come home to do all these other things like doing the laundry, doing the dishes, doing all themselves, because that woman who's making all her own money to do whatever she wants, to pay for her nails and her lashes and her hair, and so I guess that's all where I just don't agree with the modern women movement. Yeah. I guess.
And it's like I said, I'm not even like, it's not like I'm against it, but like the one thing that like kind of really gets to me is like these type of women specific, where they're about their career, and I don't need a man to tell me what to do or anything. Like, I don't need anyone telling me how, like, I'm going to dress this way and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm about my career. I can take care of myself. Meanwhile, like, they're working just a regular job it's not a career. It's like a job that they got because they need a job. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, maybe you should settle back on, I'm a strong woman, I can do whatever I want to do. And maybe just listen and just, like, take some advice. And because the one of the biggest things is from those exact same ones is, like, all of them will be like, men ain't shit. And in a roundabout way, a lot of guys nowadays, a lot of men aren't shit. A lot of men are boys.
Yeah.
Fucking guys are just as bad, because guys are like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to play video games. I work today, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, you're working a regular job though.
Yeah,
You're not even working a career, so
you're
you
stocking
should.
shelves at a grocery store. I mean, you
Yeah,
should
yeah,
probably, if you can do something else. I mean, you work. I know a lot of guys who again say that, and they work 32 hours a week, like stocking grocery store shelves. And hell, I don't even care if you were to DoorDash, and to get up, make money a little bit to just help support, just to have fun. Maybe that does pay your bills, but you need, in my opinion, something a little bit extra to just go out and treat yourself or treat your family or treat your girl, whoever it is, to do a little bit better. So if you got to work and Saturday, even like I say, delivering a couple meals for a couple hours to be able to take your girl out to a nice dinner, do it.
yeah, 100%.
So
And that's another thing, especially about guys. Like guys nowadays, just kind of like really piss me off because a lot of them are like, well, my wife, she's always nagging at me and shit. I'm like, okay, well, what do you do when you get home? You know what I mean? Like, do you watch a football game and drink your beer, or do you help out around the house? Like, are you putting anything in more than, well, I pay these bills?
mhm.
It's like, okay, well, yeah, you also should probably be a little bit more caring, a little bit more loving, and like just a little bit more thoughtful instead of, like a lot of guys nowadays, they're like, well, I'm the man of the household. Meanwhile, they're working just a regular job. And I'm not knocking people that work in those jobs.
No, yeah,
but when you're
I
working that
give
type
respect.
of
If you
job,
work any job, I will give you 100% respect for every single job in our nation has to be done by somebody.
yeah,
So I 100%, I will never knock anyone, whether you're working fast food at, working the drive-through or to come, all the way up. That job's got to be done by somebody.
yeah.
So
But
I will
with
absolutely
those level
commend.
of jobs comes with a little bit more level of things that you're going to have to do at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because if you're working a regular job making less money, and that means that your wife's gonna also have to be
Has
doing the
make that
same.
same money
So
or
both
better.
of you are gonna have to be doing the home roles as well. So like, it's gonna take extra from both,
Exactly.
and I think that's just what a lot of guys don't realize, because women do it, guys do it, and they really want to bitch about the opposite sex, and it's not an opposite sex thing. It's like hey, if you want to find a woman who is going to be into you, and like you want them to be a little bit more submissive to you, well, you're going to actually have to have a good job and a dream to tell them, hey, this is where I'm going in life. You want to be a part of this train? Like, this is where the destination is. You have to have a good destination.
I was going to say, I think you have to not only be, I don't know, maybe it's wrong to say, but be doing better than them.
Yeah.
But be showing that you're also trying to go further than just doing what you're doing.
You have to.
So they're
you
not going
to
to
provide a dream to them that they want to have.
As you're that guy if you're doing the exact same thing that they are doing. If they can do it themselves and you're doing it, they're not going to look up to you.
Yeah.
Versus if you're doing better than them, they're going to look at you of, okay, he's done something that I haven't done that's one step above. And if he's trying to go another step above that, they're going to support you of, okay, well, maybe he knows something more than I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's also another thing I think that a lot of guys are so afraid of nowadays, because, it does suck being not in a relationship sometimes. It sucks being, whether we want to call it being lonely or whatever you want to call it. But, like, you also have to have standards and not budge on those standards. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I live by. And you're cool, but I don't give in on those. And
these are my deal breakers.
Women might not like it. Like, even my wife, there's some things, I'm like set on, like, no, this is a point. And at first, we definitely butted heads on a lot of things, but it was like, she got to where it was like, okay, you know, I respect that. And they'll respect you more for standing your ground versus saying that you have this standard and then giving in on it.
And I want my woman to even have those same standards and stand on theirs. That if our, you know, standards don't match up, it is what it is. Maybe this is not meant to be for a long-term thing. Because I think eventually that if they're thinking something of their standards and they give way to whatever it is to be with you, that eventually that exact same standard is going to come up in the future of this is a problem. So I think what you guys want does have to merge into each other for it to actually work in a long-term, you know, thing.
Yeah, 100%. And see, that's also another thing. Like, I would say, like, one of the big things, and I know that, like, some guys, I've had a couple guys try to, like, argue with me about it, but I'm like, dude, you're never going to change my mind because I know who I've been and I know other guys, and other guys are...
You have real-world experience of...
Yeah, this. And a woman with a whole bunch of guy friends... I'm sorry, but that shit does not work for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not like, oh, hey, as soon as we get together, you got to delete them, you got to block them. No, but there's probably going to be a couple of social media platforms like Snapchat, for instance. Like, no, I'm not okay with it. And it's going to come to a point
because
where it's
as
like...
a guy, you know why those guy friends are there.
Yeah. And women don't want to believe that. They really don't. And I think that women, a lot of them are blind to it, but a lot of them do know that. And I think women do the same, but they're more in doubt about it than guys are. I'm just brutally honest about it. Guys will linger and wait for the right moment to get in because they have, you know, especially a guy nowadays, our age, single, you know, in the party life and everything, especially the party life, like, that they probably have 20 other chicks that they talk to on a regular basis.
They got their roster.
Yeah, and a woman on Snapchat's like, well, they're my friend, and then, like, something happens, they get out of a relationship, and then that guy's like, oh, hey, you know, like, you're one of the 20 chicks I Snapchat, and then something happens, they drink, and then, bam, it's like, okay, yeah, well... That's how most of them start out was, well,
we're just friends.
That's like one of the number one excuses. Like, well, we were just friends. It's like, yeah, well, that's how we started out too. So
exactly, and
you can't make that excuse.
I've been that. Oh, we're just friends, you know, and
I've been that guy.
So I've been on both sides of it, and so as a guy, you absolutely know, and. To a woman, it seems wrong to say, you know, oh no, like I know what they're there for, but in all honesty, you know what they're there for.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
and guys, you know, they'll be like, nah, I'm not like that. And I'm like, dude, get out of here.
And that's where I respect even asking you before she added me, you know, on social media and stuff like. Is it okay with you?
Yeah.
You know, so because we're both friends, and I think you know as well as she knows, like I would never try to ever anything, you know, come between you guys.
Yeah.
And that's why you were probably cool with it. But I give her mad respect for asking and making sure it's okay with you before doing something. That's where I say that whole submitting of. It's up to him.
Yeah.
I'm supporting him, and if he doesn't think something is right, I'm going to follow that decision.
Yeah, and that's what one thing is like. I won't go in details, but like I've literally trusted you with my life with a lot of things. So like I know I can trust you, you know what I mean? Like not going to say, but like literally life that I have now versus life not seeing light anymore. So like I'd say that's the number one thing is like knowing the other person too.
Mm-hmm. Where they would go, what they would do for you, or what they would do to you.
Yeah, 100%. And that's another thing nowadays is like being able to trust someone is very hard.
Yeah.
Because, like, so many people, and I don't even think they purposefully, some people are purposefully fake, but, like, a lot of the times, people are simply just lonely and, like, say, I'm friends with so-and-so, and they can't hang out. Well, then so-and-so hits me up, but they're so-and-so's enemy. Well, I'm like, well, I'm bored. I don't have the issue, so I'm hanging out with them. And then, shit's said between the two of us. And then it's like, well, you're kind of turning your back on this other person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
you're
not
just
that.
right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and it's not even that you're trying to turn your back on them and, be their enemy now. But a lot of the times people just want to be surrounded by people.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it isn't purposefully, kind of like women having guy friends. It's not purposefully like they want to sleep with them, but I'll tell you, those guys on the other end of that
and that's
friendship,
so I've always
they're waiting
said
for the chance.
One of the biggest rules I follow is I try to trust no one, because even as a person myself, I've made choices that I know will hurt myself in the long run.
Yeah.
So what's to stop random dude from making a choice that's going to hurt me in the long run? If I'll make the choice myself that I know is going to hurt me, what's not going to affect him to make a choice that's going to hurt me? What's ever going to stop him?
100%. And that was one of the number one things. Like, my grandma told me one day, or asked me, she's like, well, you trust me, don't you? I was like, for the most part, yeah. And she was like, what? Like, and it wasn't
someone 100% is just.
It wasn't anything that I meant to, like, offend her in any way, but I was like, hey, and she's super hardcore Christian, like, so I was like, well, God made Lucifer. Well, you know how that turned out, like, devil and everything. He was God's favorite child. Now he's the devil. Now he's the complete opposite of God and everything. And I'm not getting biblical, but if the creator of everything can make something and then that goes wrong, and also I've done things where I didn't want to do it and I know it would hurt me, but I did it anyways. Like you were saying, if I'm doing something that's going to hurt myself, well, then how can I fully trust them? Because guarantee you, everyone has done something in their lives that hurt themselves somehow, some way, or other people. So it's like, it's not that I don't want to, but I know the reality of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at everything.
And so, like, no, there's people that, yes, I would trust in my life. But I feel like at a point, there are some people that you do have to, at some point you have to trust someone else.
Oh,
you know, with whatever's going on. And so, but there are very few, that can ever be a thing with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's what especially, and I would say this is like one thing that guys I don't think are very open to talking about is like, we feel things, but we don't really talk about it. And like for a guy to be willing to, guys are easy to fall into a woman, but actually be consistent and fully give into a woman, like completely, and open up. Not just like drunk, some things went on and then you like let some shit out. It's more like sober, hey, this is how I really fucking feel, like I'm down right now.
And it also shows weakness, which a lot of women find unattractive.
Yeah.
And so it not only is it just hard to show just simply because of who you trust, but also because of, if I do this, where's that gonna put me?
Yeah.
So it also comes down to a lot of, I don't know how else to put it, but like I say, you become less attractive necessarily because you're a weak man.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Well, and see, that's the number one thing that I've heard so many women, I'll be nice with words and everything, but I've seen women complain about how their man won't open up to them and everything. And this is a true story. Like, this is a relationship I seen just completely fall apart. Got together, and she would complain how, like, he wouldn't open up, talk about things and all this stuff. And, you know, he wound up talking about a bunch of things, you know, in his life and all that. And then when it finally all fell apart, they split up. It's like, oh, he's a pussy. He's all this. He complains about this. And it's like, I know for a fact you were begging him to just simply open up and tell you what's going on. But then as soon as you guys aren't, you know, with each other or on the same coolness level, it's like, fuck him, he's a pussy, all this shit. And I'm just like, come on. Like,
yeah, and so that's
it
I
just
think a lot of men
turns
are,
into a tool to use against someone.
I just think a lot of men are scared of that.
Yeah.
You know. And so and that's where I try to come out from the start of even opening up a little. Like, I don't obviously give everything, but just give a surface level of what's going on to almost feel them out.
Yeah.
Of what's, you know, how they're going to react to this. And honestly, even now, it's a hit and miss of who wants to hear it and who says they want to hear it, and behind closed doors they don't really want to hear it. They're just going to say it one way because that's what they should do.
Yeah, that was one thing. So, like, I just gone through so many of these, like, little quick short relationships to where I'd say a couple things, not much, but it was like something to where it was like, I'm not just going to tell everyone, but it wasn't like a, you know, I haven't told anyone before type deal. And it was just used against me in the end after it didn't work out. And so, like, I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm opening up everything to the world. So, like, you know, a handful of years, 4 years ago, started making TikTok videos and just talking about pretty much anything
whatever's
and everything.
Going on.
Yeah. So it's kind of come to the point where I'm like, you know, I've opened up about all my shit. So it's like, you want to use that against me? Cool. Like, I've overcome that shit. So, like, you're just looking like a dumbass at this point if you're going to use it against me. So, and everyone knows it. So it's like, okay, I'm not hiding it, but I'm not just openly telling it either. You know what I mean? I am, but I'm not. So it's like, that shit's out there. If people want to find it, it's out there, you know? I have a past. Everybody has a past, and everyone's done stupid shit. So, and for those that live where we live or in the area, it seems like I can't go anywhere without someone knowing me somewhere.
Yeah.
Literally. And I know why, but also it'll be people that I don't know who they are. Like, I've never actually met them. They're like, yeah, I know you, though. And I'm like, that's cool. Yeah, I don't think you know me, but you know of me. You know the old me.
That's just how it was at, was out at the lake today. And there's so many people that I apparently had met, and even having a name like I do, that it's pretty easy to remember. But for me to come across a Jake or whatever their name is, I've heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And so I can't necessarily put a name to the face that I met, 100 times, but that's the only thing that I find that comes hard with my name necessarily is everyone remembers you, but you can't remember everyone.
And see, that's another thing is, like, especially my last name, Tweedy.
Yeah.
No one else around here has the same last name except for, a couple other family members. And so it's like, yeah, no one forgets that. Like, anytime anyone has ever told me I'm not good at names, and I'm like, well, my last name's Tweedy, like Tweety Bird, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to forget that. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what I told you.
And so it just comes around, and it kind of, I don't know if it doesn't necessarily make me feel like shit, because at first it did, and now slowly I've realized, like, that's just how it is. But at first it makes you kind of feel like crap just because of all these people remember who you are, but you can't remember who they are.
Well, I'd say the biggest thing, especially with, like, my last name, so it kind of goes, like, one of two ways. So it's like, do they know my last name Tweedy because of me, or because of my real dad, because me and my real dad, we don't get along, we don't talk anything, and it's like people have met him, and it's like, so when they say, well, I know, your real dad, I'm like, okay, well, how is this gonna go? Because I've met a few people where it didn't go down a good conversation. Nothing negative towards me, but negative towards.
And I feel the same way,
person.
because there's a lot of people I met that I don't know, but they know my dad,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to hate on my dad or nothing at all, but he's never been the greatest of people, you know. And so I don't know when you hear that, oh yeah, that I can never tell if, do you know him for a good reason, or do you know him for a bad reason?
Yeah.
And so where are you going to place me in terms of just simply who my parents are?
Yeah.
And so and not that I'm saying I'm even anything like my parents. Just people they hear this name and they automatically have an idea of who you are because of your parents.
That was like one thing. So like I went through like, I mean, obviously you were there for some of it, seen me go through a lot of it, but like was in a super hardcore party phase where like partying was literally my life from sun up to sundown, Monday through Monday. Like it didn't matter what day it was. And so like, a lot of people knew me because of who I was. A lot of people knew me because of who my family was and stuff. And just because, I don't know, I guess I'm just a well-known person somehow, some way. But, like, a lot of people don't like me, but a lot of people at least respect me. Like, it's very rare that I've only had, like, maybe 2 or 3 encounters where it's like someone is blatantly some type of way in front of me.
Like against you.
Yeah, or to my face. And in probably every single one of the situations, they had some liquid courage in them. So it's like, I know that they wouldn't say the shit to my face. So it's like, you know what? So when I do hear negative shit, I'm just kind of like, I don't care because I know I've been a piece of shit, but I've overcome all that. So it's like, you're also talking about me, 4 years ago. So I'm like, whatever you're talking about, it's old news. I've overcome it, and I've already talked about it. Like, I've been cool, dude. I've overcome that. So, like, for you to even try to, like, talk down on me, 4 or 5 years ago, it's kind of like you're just an ignorant person. So, really, it's just, to me, it just is like, whatever, dude. Like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess, and that's honestly the same for me. I've through high school, I was definitely some type of way of substance, use and whatnot. And then getting into actual life of what you want to do with who you are and where you want to go, becomes a completely different thing. And I always said, even in high school, that eventually there's a party phase that has to stop.
Yeah.
And become who I want to be. And so, but getting over that hump of what people now think of you versus who you actually are now, years and years later, is a complete different, thing. Because I've, even me, and I've completely changed my life of who I've used to be.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it was so funny because before you went to Texas, you used to be so into, like, rap. That was the only thing you listened to, it seemed like. And I was like, dude, you're going to go to Texas, you're going to be country, and, like, Texas is just going to you're going to become part of Texas, dude. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, you blew it off so hard. And then within, like, 2 weeks, I was seeing you wear the like, different types of flat bills from freaking Cavenders and shit.
Yeah.
And
as soon as I went, I didn't even realize how big Cavenders was. But your cavender's bill as soon as you go to Texas just becomes ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like that's the number one thing that happens to anyone that goes in any type of trade in Texas is they're going to find a cool pair of boots, some like probably 10 snapbacks,
Between
some
Cavender's
chains.
and Boot Barn,
Yeah.
you're gonna spend a couple few checks of what you have extra to go along with. It's gonna be spent just of reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, dude, and that's another thing that like a lot of people will try to tell me different things, but it's not that I don't listen to them, but I've literally worked, lived, and gone all over the U.S. So I have a good amount of life experience. And I know that I'm young. I'm only 25. I get that I'm young, but growing up, I always hung out with people that were older than me, and I've also been all over the U.S. Like, I think I've been in every state but, like, maybe 10 or 12. So it's like I've seen many different cultures. I see how people interact with each other.
And that's the same
City
with me
life,
in the
complete hillbilly, middle of the woods life. Like
that's the same with me. With people who come in with no experience into the trade of some groundsmen that have never seen this stuff. I try to give my advice of what I've seen, where I've been, and I know I'm young. I'm only 24, but that doesn't mean I haven't been complete different sides of what can be here.
yeah.
And so I try to give my opinion of what is honestly going on.
And that's like one thing. I used to like going to the bars and all that, and then it just hit a point where I'm just like, it's just going to be the same shit, different day. And like I realized work was same shit, different day. That was the biggest thing in the workforce. And then the weekends came and it was like same shit, different day. And I'm like, I don't want my weekends to also be the same as the 5-6 days a week that I don't already really care for to begin with. And also, like, I've just seen enough relationships because when you go to the bars, a lot of shit happens, and especially when you're drinking, emotions are more up, intelligence is way further down. And I just even the I don't know how many relationships, I couldn't count off the top of my head, that I have seen work out and they are older and they still go to the bar, but their relationship is not the relationship I'd want at that age.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's just, I started to realize it's like, that's not a place I really just want to continue to go to. Like, I love playing pool, but I don't like the nightlife bar scene really anymore. I like a cool kickback at someone's house, having some drinks or going out to the lake, something like that. But it's even become where the lake, depending upon situation, can be kind of on the edgy part. But it's just a matter of, like, really good communication of where your boundaries are between the other person that you're with, though, too. So, but yeah, I don't know, like that whole life, because that literally just used to be my entire life. Like, It was like, this is what life is, And also, that was another thing, was like finding people outside of that life
that are like-minded.
Yeah, that don't want to go to the bar and stuff anymore. It seems to almost kind of be hard. You know what I mean? It's like everyone goes to the bar. Everyone just gets pissed drunk every weekend. And it's not that, like, I know who I am, and I know that a lot of, like, goes back to the circumstances. If you work a lower paying job, your other half's going to be working another job. So you guys are both going to have to be putting in these roles. So if you're going out to the bar every single night and living that lifestyle, know that it comes with all these other things as well. So it's like, you want to live this life, but you also have to understand that there's going to be other things that come with it. It's like wanting to be a bank robber, but then get mad when either one of your guys that you robbed a bank with fucks you over, or you go to jail. And it's like, well, you can't really be mad, you're living that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, if you fight by the sword, you die by the sword kind of deal.
And that's where mine kind of fucks me up in a way because I can do all that and not worry about what I'm spending.
Yeah.
In a sense, and I'm not trying to be on any higher level type whatever it is, and sometimes I wish it did to pull me out of it, because I do like going to whatever Party Cove or going to the bar and just hanging out.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm going there just to party, but I'm going there just to meet people, really.
Yeah.
I always can have more friends or more things to do. Because when you're single, like where I'm at right now, I mean, nothing is ever tying you down to one place or one. And so if you want to go and just say what's up to whoever because they're out at this, like I say, Party Cove or whatever, you can go say what's up.
Yeah.
Or if I want to go play pool, for pool league, I like to go play.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I would say, 80% of people just don't have it that way. And so you're in the minority when you're there of in the sense of you're going to get people to come up to you and say what's up and say, whatever. People are going to be into you or whatever just because simply you have what they want. But that doesn't mean you're actually liked by them.
Yeah, and that was like one thing is like meeting people at the bar and everything. I used to think it was like so much fun. And, I've met some really cool people, but like it didn't turn out to be like a good friendship, someone I can trust, someone I can count on, someone like is still yet there to this day type deal. Mm-hmm. So it's like I met a lot of cool people, had a lot of cool experiences, but like it didn't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess that's just something that
I would say that
comes with it.
They're just not there for the right reasons. You're not gonna meet people for the right reasons in those places.
Yeah.
So that's where like I say, I like meeting new people and having new experiences, but you're not gonna ever, in my opinion, find the right people for where you're at in those places.
Yeah, that's like one thing. So like I love meeting people, I love talking to people, and a lot of people would think that I'm the opposite because I'm very shut off and very closed. But I actually do like having an encounter with someone, like talking to them, conversating, hanging out, and want to trust someone. But it doesn't really go that way, so I'm just kind of like somewhat closed off in a way, and it's also a life experience as well. But like a lot of people, it's more of just like I just want to go there and enjoy it and then get back to life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Instead of like I want to go out, meet a fucking good friend, someone I can trust. Like it doesn't seem like people are going out to meet others and with like a purpose of like I want to meet a good friend and I want to find someone where they have like mind and we're going to have a business one day, or this group of people where we do these things and hang out and everything. It's kind of just more like, I met them, it's a cool experience, and
you all move on with your life.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, you at the bar this weekend? Like type deal. And I just started to see where it was just like such a consistent pattern with everybody, especially at like bars, I don't know, parties. And not that I'm even exactly against it. Like, if people's lives are good and they're doing it, then that's cool. But I just, personally for me, I guess I just have different standards and points of views on a lot of things too.
And that's where I say, I mean, that one off, might come or whatever, that you'll find that one person that is that way. Yeah. But the chance of that actually happening is
slim.
Far and in between.
Yeah, and that's all. It also takes another person of like understanding like people willing to actually work through shit. So, like, especially people our age. God, dude, they're fucking so short to just be like, nope, I don't like this. Off with this person. It's like, God, have you ever just talked about anything and like worked through anything? You know what I mean? Like, growing up, I seen family fight, and it's like, okay, they work through it, and people are people. People are always gonna be people, and it's just like different careers and stuff. Like cops, for instance. Not all cops are bad, but also not all cops are good. And it's not as simple as, cops are assholes. It's like, well, there's cops that are assholes, yeah, but there's good cops. I've had actually really good encounters with cops before.
And I've honestly never had, even being through what I have, I've never actually had a bad cop encounter. In my, complete thought that if you're respectful to them, even if you're in the wrong, that they're going to be respectful back to you.
Yeah.
I went to jail for, bad charges and stuff, and I was just completely respectful of them and told them everything or whatever they needed to know. And in the end, it worked in my favor of completely released of all charges, blah, blah, blah. And so in my full honest opinion, that if you're respectful to them and you give, if you know you're in the wrong of something, admit it.
Yeah, I've literally only had a couple of like bad interactions, and and it's not as simple as, is this cop being an asshole? I think that there was one that was actually just simply being an asshole because he'd tried things like a handful of times, and it's just, that's who he is.
Going over the top,
Yeah, going over the fucking top, being excessive, and he even got fucking talked to about it because he was over the top for a while. But the other cop, it's like, is he having a bad day? What was the interaction before he just interacted with me? Are things good at home? Who fucking knows? Dude, I'll fucking go to work, have a bad day, and fucking I'll go to the grocery store.
And that's the thing, even with
and
us,
just be pissed off.
That if we have a bad day, we can say, don't fucking talk to me. Like, I have a bad day and it's whatever. But someone like the law enforcement who deals with public all day, every day, and they can't necessarily say that to everyone that they stop or whatever, doing their absolute job. Everyone has bad days. Yeah. And they're just going to come in mad. They're going to come in. So I've never had any resentment towards any law enforcement for whatever they're doing. If I'm in the wrong for whatever has happened, I'm in the wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's where I cannot ever say that whatever has happened in my past was wrong, because anytime I've had anything happen, it's because, was I speeding that day? Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Did I have a reason to be pulled over? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And so
being able to take that self accountability, I think, is what a lot of people don't want to do, and they're like, this cop's being an asshole. It's like, oh, well, actually, in all reality, it's not legal to do whatever that the person was doing, and you got caught, and you're just mad because you're caught.
Yeah.
And this person is reassuring and forcing you to fucking follow within these lines, and
that's,
you didn't want to, so you're mad about it.
The last time I was getting pulled over, I was on my way to Emporia, and so I knew I was speeding. This guy in front of me was running way under the speed limit, and I was kind of getting all antsy and sped up around him and was making up time before a storm came in. And so I knew I was doing 9, 10, 11, maybe over.
Yeah.
And I immediately, when I got past this guy, I passed a cop, you know, while I was still doing, you know, quite a little bit over. And so I saw his lights come on. And before that cop could even get turned around, I was already in the shoulder, pulled over. Because I knew what he was coming after. He was coming after me because I absolutely knew I was speeding. And that's where that humility of,
I fucked up.
You know, I fucked up comes in, because even then he said straight up to me, like, because of you knew you were doing wrong and you stopped, I didn't have to chase you down, I'm going to let you off with a warning today.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's one of those, if you can take half accountability even for what you are doing wrong, that 99% of officers are going to look at that and say, okay, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's not out here just, you know, being reckless.
Yeah.
And I've came across that, and that's not the only time I've came across that exact experience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I used to have 2 outstanding speeding tickets on my record. One was a 96 and a 30, and one was like 119 and a 65. Straight up admit, like, hey, you know, I fucked up. Like, I was being stupid, you know. I wasn't going to lie about it, because it's like, yeah, you fucking clocked me, dude. Like,
you have me on radar. There's nothing I can say that's going to say that this wasn't going on. I mean, you have me at this.
He had asked, he's like, why were we going that fast? I was simply being dumb, and I fucked up, so yeah. Okay, well, can I see your license? And he was super calm about it. It was super easy with me, you know, because he realized, like, you know, I feel like that's most of it, is being accountable for it. But if you want to sit there and try to argue with it, it's like, well, they have all the power in that.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're caught fucking up. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, you're not going to, if you think that trying to argue about it is going to get you out of it, it's going to do actually the opposite. So.
And so the first time I had that, I was doing only 48 in a 30 is what they clocked me at. And I was doing 65 in a 30. And I had my dad, for my 16th birthday, bought me a radar detector. And so, I mean, that thing started going nuts. And so I immediately slammed on the brakes. And he clocked me at 48 in a 30. And I guarantee I was doing at least double over.
Yeah.
And I told the cop straight up, like, look, I just got this car yesterday, which is completely true.
Yeah.
And I had my friend in the car. I was just showing him what it could do, and I was being dumb. I shouldn't have, and that's completely my fault. And that's how I got let out on a warning.
Yeah.
For speeding like that, of, you know, 18 over, which is ridiculous. You could have a big ticket for something like that. But just having the humility of accepting that, no, I screwed up and I shouldn't have been doing this, that they're going to commend you, or however you want to say it, for that, of just owning up to your wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So kind of back to the lineman thing. What was your favorite thing about going to lineman school? Besides the camaraderie of having roommates and going out and shit, like school itself.
So, I didn't know that I was a big fan of heights. But honestly, like, the first time I climbed, 120-foot structure and got the video at the top and got all that did I know that, like, okay, there's a ton of people that I know couldn't do this and have told me they couldn't do this, and I just feel like a badass when I'm at the top, you know. So that's probably my favorite, of just when you're way up in the air, of what most people say, like, there's no way I could work with 100,000 volts 100 foot in the air, and I have fun doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so then it just gives you that feeling of, okay, I am that motherfucker that can get this done.
Yeah.
So that's probably my favorite of being in line school.
You know, and that was one thing about welding, I guess, that I do kind of like is like it's so funny because someone will be like, I could never fucking do that. And I'm like, to me, it seems so fucking easy because I'm just like, oh, God, I'm bored. Like, literally, sometimes I'm so tired and I've done this same exact weld on the same thing so many times to where I literally will close my eyes for like 10 seconds while I'm welding and I just know how to do it and the speed and angle of it to where I can literally do it with my eyes closed or not even be looking. And so to me, it seems super easy, but to others, they're like, "Dude, I can't fucking do it." And I'm just like, "Oh, this is cool."
I'm that badass that can, you know.
Well, and see that. So like the thing that you said when you were in school was like, "Oh, you know, get to the top of the pole or hit the road." And a lot of people don't realize is like that's a standard and that's what you have to have because if you, say they let that person go by, they go out on a job and then, oh, I can't climb up there, you know, and they're too tired or afraid to do it or whatever. It's like, okay, well, the fucking job needs to get done. So your feelings don't really matter.
Guess what? This guy's power is out right now, and we're on a job that this guy needs his power on yesterday. So it doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. His power needs to be turned back on.
Yeah.
You know,
and he pays for a service for a reason.
So that's just where it comes to that. Yeah, no matter what you think you can or can't do, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those, they can't have somebody thinking or even being scared of getting up there to do it. You just need to know your stuff and get up there and do it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, simple as
that's
that.
another thing that I think that a lot of people, a lot of jobs nowadays, they've bent the rules and standards because, well, we need people bad and so many people aren't willing to. So, that, like, well, yeah, when you do that, though, you're going to start seeing more shit get fucked up, more people not knowing what they're doing, and the job not being done how it's supposed to originally be doing, you know? It's like going up in high school, it seemed like welders were this fucking top tier thing. So I was like, oh, that's fucking badass, you know what I mean? And
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, a lot of people can't do that. It was like a thing. It's like, oh, well, not most people can do that. And I figured out that, you know, it is, most people could do it. It's a choice. I truly believe it's a choice.
Want to do it.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to work that hard. A lot of people don't want to work in the heat, the hours, you know, time away from family, especially if you're working on the road, you know. But if you're young, getting out of high school, go work on the road, man. Like, that's where the money is. And, you know, if you're like an entrepreneurial type and you want to have a business, fucking dive deep, work hard, and don't put any time and effort into anything else but that one fucking skill you want to conquer.
And see, like, so you asked me, you know, what made me want to become a blue collar, you know, whatever. And the one thing that's honestly, like, completely kept me in, and so to get into a trade like I'm at, someone can tell you what it is, and you'll never get a full grasp of what actually goes on in the field. And I bet it's the same as welding. Someone can tell you one thing, but you don't actually get a full view of what's going to go on in the field. And especially on storm for like us, you just don't actually, they'll tell you all these stories, but you don't know it until you see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
And so one thing that's honestly kept me in, and I absolutely love and will keep me in, is when you get people's power restored and they haven't had, you know, electricity in the last 3 days. They haven't had AC. They haven't had, and it's hot. And they'll come out, and I've personally had people bring an entire cooler out full of beer saying, I thank you guys so much. Like, you need to take this back with you. Like, please. and just have a great night tonight. You know,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And as a company, we can't accept it. You know, like I thank you so much. I see where you're coming from. You know, we can't accept a cooler full of beer, but to have you get a power on and you throw in a cutout and a whole block turns on and everyone comes out of their front door cheering you on and just clapping. You see all their power back on and they're thanking you, and it feels really good
Well,
to
then
be that
what
guy.
what can you do if someone just throws in a fucking cooler of beer in your truck? You know what I mean?
I mean, I wish
You,
sometimes
you
I
didn't
wish
accept
that.
it.
I
They
was gonna
just
say
put it in there.
sometimes I wish that happened. It was just put in there, but again, it's one of those things. It's a company policy of you never know that if someone had a malicious intent and even took a needle and poked it through the top and drugged that fucking beer, whatever it is, you know. And I don't think it would happen in 99.9% of situations.
You don't want to go along for the ride? Yeah, I'm just playing.
But you know, it's just one of those we can't accept it. We can't. I wish we could, but you know.
Yeah.
But just seeing the look on their faces and how thankful they are for what you did for them, that's rewarding enough. That, like, you know, I was that guy that was able to, this whole block, got them back on, got them running, got their, you know, maybe, you know, it's been 100 degrees this whole week, and you had your kids stay at their grandma's because they couldn't stay. So finally, you get your kids back today. They get to stay with you, or whatever it is, you know, and they come and just be thanking you because you are that person that was able to help them out and get them back up and running. It gives you a sense of accomplishment in your job, and instead of just like the oil field of, okay, I hooked this well up, I'm gonna move to the next one, and you never see a finished product.
See, and
You get to see it, and you get rewarded of seeing other people be happy because of what you've done.
I'd say that's one thing that I haven't ever really experienced in any of the work that I've done. I can't say none of it. I mean, I've built some fence for people and they loved it and everything, but like working the oil field was like one thing. You know, you don't have customers. You're there to fucking weld this fucking pipe. You get the shit done. But where I had the sense of accomplishment was you had to have a good name for yourself, and you had to fucking work them long hours, and you had to fucking work hard. You had to work fast, and you had to also put in good work. Like, everything better be 100%.
If you want to get another call for another job.
Yeah, 100%. And that was, like, one of the things is, like, dude, I had probably 10 people, roughly 10 people that we went to high school with that reached out to me, and they're like, yo, how do I get in the oil field? How do I get a job? And I'm like, yo, what's the longest, you know, work hours you've worked? Well, I've worked like 10-hour days. I'm like, yeah, get ready to work fucking 30 hours straight. No lunch, fucking work. And they're like, what? That's not even legal. I'm like, they don't give a fuck if it's legal.
It doesn't matter.
You're going to fucking work, dog. Yeah, like they don't care about that shit. And that's what some people aren't just fucking willing to do.
Do you know Giovanni around here? So first storm I went out with was him, you know. And so we went out and we were working in Kansas City. And I don't know, maybe I was a you know, good hand for him or whatever, because I worked in the oil field and I did whatever, and it didn't matter if it's time to work, it's time to work, and you're gonna continue to push through. And as much as that killed me being out there for those few days, immediately when I got home, there was another storm in Texas, and he said, "Hey, I got this call. You were good. Let's go to Texas, you know, and do this." And so I wasn't home for an hour, not even an hour, off of one job before I'm getting calls. And I ended up getting 4 calls for that same job in Texas to go, just of, you did a great job.
Yeah.
And we want you here.
Yeah, and see, that's what one thing why I want to, I don't know. Like currently, I'm doing the podcast and everything. That's really where I want my future to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like work wise, I get told how my job's important and everything. Being a welder, there's only a handful of us there. Now it's important, but I don't feel important whatsoever because it's like, you can hire another wire welder that same week.
Yeah.
So really, it's not that hard. Especially in welding, when most people say, well, I'm a welder. Well, what do you weld? Well, I work at this factory. We burn 045 wire, Okay, yeah. Well, technically weld, yeah, but a monkey could fucking weld that. So it's...
As long as you can look at your puddle while you're fucking there and just keep it even. I mean,
Yeah,
and not to knock welding in any fucking sense, I'm not saying it's not a hard job or it's not something that takes time to master.
Yeah.
But anyone that's done it for a little while, I feel like can do it.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. That's like a difference between
like stick welding and welding pipe or welding is a different story. But if you're just running
100%.
If you're just running a fucking wire welder, a lot of people can fucking just run that.
Yeah, and if you wanted to, you could watch some YouTube videos and within a week meet within standards of most factory welding tests. Yeah, so it's not like it's super hard, and that's what one thing, if I could offer any advice to any young kid that's getting ready to graduate high school and he wants to, make decent money, stay in the same town, not go to college and get in debt in school and be considered a welder, fucking learn how to wire weld. You can find a factory job almost anywhere in any town that has some type of wire welding.
And that's where I look at a lot of
get you a little welder.
I've seen a ton of ads of the Missouri Welding Institute and all that, and I see a lot of them are coming out with and just going to wire welding at factories. And even at Briarton's, you've seen how many of those welders that can't weld yet start out just tacking pieces and slowly, while making decent money, build up to actually welding.
That's another thing. I'm not trying to talk shit on people that go to welding school, and I'm not talking shit on welding school, but dude, almost anyone knows someone that knows someone with either a welding machine or knows someone that welds somewhere that they could, if you just graduated, work a regular little fucking job, start out in fab, and then be like, hey, on my breaks, can I practice or something, find some scrap, or find someone that has a welder or something, or someone that knows someone. It's like, hey, I want to be a welder. I know that you're a welder. Is there any way that you could teach me some tips and tricks and shit? But, dude, welding school, I feel like, is one of the biggest fucking scams in America. And the reason why is because most of these fucking colleges will say, you come here, we're going to teach you how to be a welder, and you're going to learn all this stuff. We just graduated this kid, and he's making
this much.
He's making $85 an hour, and he's making $200 a day per diem, and he's making this much for his right hand, which is like how much you get for your welding machine using your own tools and everything. And it's like, okay, yeah, there are jobs out there like that, but let me tell you something. It's far and fucking few in between, and you're using this very high standard to rope in people into your college because the college is just another business.
And completely honest, I feel it's the same way for the line trade. Because the only thing that I really got that is extremely useful in what I do is my CDL.
Yeah.
And that's where it is tough because a lot of right now they made it a law that you have to go through a CDL school to get your CDL. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was same as it was before, that if you had a truck that you can rent out and learn everything, you could just test. And I guess apparently that's not the way it goes anymore. You have to go through a line or a fucking CDL school to get it. And so the only thing that is big in there is you have to have a CDL, because whether it's, you know, we call them crummies, which is, you know, a people hauler truck, which is like a 2500 with a big, you know, tool bed, and then you're hauling a skid steer. Well, that trailer and the truck is rated at over 26,000 pounds, so it requires a Class A because it's a combination vehicle over 26,000 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, so no matter what truck you drive, whether it's full semi, that 18-speed semi, down to the truck that's hauling people out, you need a CDL to fucking drive it. Whatever we drive out there. And so to even sign the books at the union here, you have to have a CDL.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't even let you sign.
Yeah.
And so I work with so many people that have had no experience in the trade whatsoever, but as long as you have a CDL, we will utilize you.
Yeah.
You know? And so for me to spend the amount of money I did to go to line school and learn everything versus just going to a CDL school, getting my CDL and starting and learning it hands-on in the field, am I a little bit ahead of everybody else? Absolutely. When I started, yeah. I have at least a notion of what this stuff is.
Yeah.
But in 20 minutes, can they not show you the exact same thing and you just do it now hands-on every single day? Absolutely. So did I need to spend the amount of money that I did to have the line school to have that 20 minutes of extra fucking, you know, experience or whatever you want to call it? No. You know, there's so many linemen in my trade that are like, oh, if you spent how much on line school? I would have taught you that for half the price, you know? And they just look at you like you're stupid. But when you're getting in, it's just that first foot in the door, and when you really don't know where to start. So
well, and there's also those two things. Another thing about welding school is if you don't know anyone, you can't figure out how to weld or anything, you know, you're from middle of, you know, Kansas City or something like that. You can't figure out any way whatsoever of how to practice or anything like that. Learn about it physically, get your hands on any of it. That's understandable, you know, if like that's a fucking job that interests you and you want to do it, then I 100% believe in going to welding school. But versus where I grew up, you know, a small town, everyone knows someone that has a fucking welding machine. You can practice somehow, some way. And also there's YouTube out there.
Yeah.
So, and versus, you know, in the city, it's like, do you know anyone that has a shop where you could hook up? Even if you were able to buy a welding machine, like, do you know somewhere where you could even somehow practice? You know what I mean? But so then I would.
Well, even in my truck right now outside, I have a welding machine, and no, is it top of the line? Anything? Absolutely not. But does that mean you can't practice on it?
Yeah,
you absolutely can. You know, and at least get a grasp of how to set the machine for what metal you're working with, and how to that type of deal.
Yeah.
And for a lot cheaper than what you're going to spend for a school.
Yeah, well,
you know?
And that's another thing that, like, especially in welding school, when you go to welding school, it is so fucking different compared to what it's like in the actual field, because that company you're working for is going to have certain ways that they want stuff done that you probably weren't taught, and also the conditions are going to be completely different than in a ventilated little shop in a little fucking booth.
And that's the same with what I did is they teach you in the absolute most perfect way this can be set up.
Your metal's perfectly clean. It's all fucking milled by a machine.
Guess what? I don't care what you're doing. It's not going to come that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in school, they'll teach you all these different things. You know, this is how you do it and everything. And when you get to a job, they're like, no, we don't do it like that. Like, this is how we want you to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not how it's taught. Well, they don't give a fuck how you're taught.
It doesn't matter how the fuck you were taught.
Yeah.
We do it this way.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like I say, it gets you the foot in the door of a certain sense of this is where you should go. This is what you need to do, and you have a little background of it. But in terms of actually doing it,
yeah,
you have no idea until you do it.
And that's like one thing, like, you know, there is those kids out there that go to welding school, and their parents will, because like they want to work in the oil field and everything.
Damn, I drank that motherfucker.
Nah, you're good. That's a blueberry, and there's an original flavor too. Yeah, dude, those things are good. But that's one thing is like some of those kids will go to college and everything for welding school, and their parents, you know, their goal is I'm gonna be a pipeline welder, and so their parents will, you know, get them this nice fancy truck, and they'll put all this money and rims and tires, lift, and all this shit, and dude, just simply going and buying a fucking dually truck, because you can do single wheeled welding rigs. I don't recommend it, just because you need the extra space. You need to have the extra wheels because you're going to be having a nice camper and all that to be living in. Don't spend all the money on that. Spend the money on all the fucking tools you need. Anything and everything. You can't have too many fucking tools.
I was going to say extra leads, extra fucking everything that comes along with it.
Yeah, because guess what? When you're out on the job and say, you know, and it might even be smart to have a secondary truck at home sitting in the lot and have a fucking duplicate if you want, which is a good idea because say that truck goes down.
You're not making no money until that truck's back up.
You're now losing $300-400 a day because you're not working because your truck's down. So you need to figure that shit out. So having all the tools that you could possibly need, get it all. You might not even use those tools for a long fucking time, but eventually you're going to need them. And if you need them on the job and you don't have them, that goes negative towards you. And also, you know, there are some companies out there that it'll cost you your fucking job.
And so maybe that's just a blue collar thing of because we're the same. Now, do you need a whole another truck? No. You know, I know welding's a little bit different in that sense, but should you have a couple bags of hand tools and drills? Yeah. You know, because sometimes you'll be out on a line and that line truck breaks. And unless you want to ask for someone to bring you 50 miles this way to go pick up your lineman wrench and do, you know, this because that truck broke down while you're out on this job. If you just were to have a secondary bag that has another line wrench and another speed wrench and, you know, just little hand tools that you would need and drills that you just save the company 3 hours worth of time to go grab those little tools that you need. Yeah. And so does it come back on you in the sense of actual money you make? No, because we're not independent like a lot of welders are. Yeah. But at the same time, who's also going to get the call back when something's needed? The guy who was not prepared for something to happen, or the guy who was prepared for whatever to come his way was ready for.
Yeah, because they know that they can count on you to be there and do the fucking job that needs to be done. But so we're going to fucking spin this bitch off to another galaxy. If you were president, what's something that you would do or undo to make this country better?
Damn, that one's a hard one. Honestly, maybe I'm wrong because I've been wrong a million times in my life. But I think for a while I would close our borders.
Oh yeah, bud.
Because in terms of how many even veterans do we have that we can't take care of right now?
Yeah.
But how many immigrants do we have that we're taking care of instead of?
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Getting
so
fucking free hotel rooms, food cards,
so
fucking stay,
I
health
can't
care.
imagine that we can't support our own people before we're supporting people from different countries coming in.
That
So,
and foreign aid, dude.
yeah, so I honestly think that I would probably cut out a lot of that stuff to support, and especially, like I said, with the VA, people who have fought for our country to be who we are over people wanting to come in.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be where at least started. You know, I'd want to make sure that who we have here and who are residents and citizens here are good before we start bringing in other people and making them good.
Yeah, and I think that the, you know, because this is known as like the land of the free, I think that we kind of got the slogan wrong. I don't know what we should call it because, well, you know, we're not 100% free. You can't just go out and do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. But, because I do believe that there needs to be law and order and everything. There needs to be people that do, you know, set standards. We need to, you know, be the land of the standard, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, it's not like, hey, we don't want to help you. I know that your life is shit, and I know that we have this border because we bought it and we fought for it and all this stuff. But if you want to come here, I feel like there needs to be a process. And I feel like, and I don't know the exact process, but I feel like maybe it should be a little bit easier, cost less or something. Because I do feel like,
I mean, no, people. In my honest opinion, like this is a world. We're not here to fight against each other in any way, shape, or form. You know, so I don't think it should be an absolute hard process to get a citizenship in America if that's what you want.
But you should. I feel like people should have a certain
do it in the
standard.
right way. You
They
know,
should have to do it in the right way. Should have a certain standard.
And I know now that, like, you know, you would have. I know through the test you have to say who the last, however many presidents are, and name them and name who did what, and that I don't feel is right because most Americans don't know what that is. You know,
100%.
I think it should be a common knowledge of what most Americans know of to get, you know, at least citizenship.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think that you should just have to prove that you're a good person and have a set way of work that you're going to do. You know what I mean? And also, like, I feel like we still need to have, you know, like, systems in place for, like, disabled, of course, and obviously. But, like, so many people just go on unemployment. I think we need to take in account our people that we have now and who we should take care of before we start worrying about foreign aid. Yeah, dude, they send these
who we
billions of dollars,
in
trillions.
our country before we worry about who's outside of our country. We need to take care of our own people before we start worrying about others. I mean, you wouldn't go and start sending money to this family without making sure your own family's taken care of.
Well, and see, one thing that's like kind of also baffles me is like the banks / government, because it's all the fucking same, is like, well, this is your credit score. It's like, okay, well, we, you know, U.S., trillions of dollars in debt. So how the fuck are you going to tell me what my credit score is? Like, yeah, you should probably
look at yourself first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing that kind of pisses me off is like we spend all this money going over to all these other countries. It's like, dude, like you said, veterans, people that are sick, you know, like kind of touching on something that's like kind of dear to my heart is like something that was, you know, in my family is Huntington's disease. There's no cure for it. There's no fucking nothing. There's no help out there for people that have it. Like, it's so hard to find help for Huntington's disease. And there's like, doesn't seem like there's much research out there for it either. And I'm like, That's a pretty big deal. I know it's not tons of people out there that have it, but one thing that just really pisses me off is it's like, there are so many people here in the U.S. that need fucking help, yet we're like, oh, we got to help these people on the other side of the fucking world. And I agree, those people do need help, but at the same time, it's like,
at what point do we worry about
ourselves? Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, it's like, if we don't have ourselves right, how are we going to be helping other people?
Exactly. So
because
what in that same sense, what is the one thing that you would change, if you were elected, tomorrow?
Ooh, yeah. Foreign aid for sure. I'd cut it off for a long time. And if we were to lend money out, it would be like a regular loan. You're going to pay it back with some interest. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's fucking fair. That's what I do for my house. That's what I do for my car.
Everything.
That's what I do for anything else for us in our own fucking country. But these other countries can take money from us and keep it. Well, here's billions of dollars. You can just have it. Here's some tanks. Here's some planes. Here's some guns, rocket launchers, grenades, whatever you want for your war over here. We'll fund it for you. But our own veterans that fought in other wars, they're on the streets either dying or...
So me and you aren't far off on, where
and like I said, I don't feel like the border... I'm not for an open border, but I'm not 100% for it being closed where no one can come in. But, like, there needs to be... we need to work on the process.
And that's where I say I don't know how to necessarily word it, but I know it'd be... that's where I say in the sense of a closed border of... Just so, like I say, we need to worry about who we have here before we start worrying about... Where we start worrying about elsewhere. We need to figure out what we're doing before we fucking help everyone else in the world.
Another big thing I would change is the fucking school systems, dude. Swear to God, it's a scam.
You think so?
100%.
And I've always said...
And I'm not saying the teachers...
Pre-K through high school. So I've been taught, shown that Westinghouse, and I don't know if you know who that is, has pretty much started the school system. And it's not necessarily...
It was the Rockefellers.
Was it the Rockefeller? Okay,
Yeah.
one of those.
Careful,
Rockefeller...
your leg's all wrapped up in that shit.
I did it on purpose.
Oh.
But either with Rockefeller or Westinghouse has started on purpose. And it wasn't necessarily to show people of how to think for themselves, but how to follow what they want to be done.
Yeah, they want employees.
So they teach you how to be employees, not how to be a free thinker.
Yeah, and see that was another reason why for me, okay, it's not 100% a scam because there are people that do want to go to college and they do want to just have a regular job and they want to a lot of people do just want that
and that's
to be their lives.
Them,
That's fucking cool, but the thing was we grew up.
How much of that is also just indoctrinated into their brain?
Exactly, and they don't fucking realize it until they're like 40 or 50, and they're like, "Fuck, I pissed my life away."
Yeah.
On this bullshit that I was taught, because we went to school and we were taught go to school, graduate, do really fucking good, and you might get this scholarship to this really good college. And once you go to this really good college, you do really good there, you'll get this really good paying job, and then you'll have a cool house, a cool car that you want. You'll get a family. You'll have kids. You'll retire. You'll get in a camper. Go see the U.S., maybe the world if you can. And then you have grandkids. And then you die. And that's your life. And that's exactly what we're fucking taught in school. And I'm like, dude, there's so much more to life. They don't talk about, what an entrepreneur is. That shit's not even talked about in school. And that... to me, and it's like, that was another one thing that really pissed me off because back in, I think it was first grade, the teacher was like, they said I need to be medicated. The teacher straight up told my parents that. My parents were pissed. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't want to work on his schoolwork. What fucking kid wants to, dog? Like, what kid actually wants to?
And that's where I completely disagree with a lot of the medical field stuff of like ADHD, where they medicate them to. I don't agree with it in terms of way back when we didn't medicate a kid because they were too hyperactive. No, instead that kid probably actually did really good in terms of he went out and probably hunted the most and brought back the most meat,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And so I don't see how you can that that's just how that kid is wired.
Yeah.
And so how can you suppress how a kid is wired to fit your standard
Also,
of what's
another thing
normal?
that goes into all that is the nutrition in our foods nowadays too, because a lot of people think, oh, someone has ADHD. Well, if they're intaking a whole bunch of folic acid and they have the MTHFR gene, well, which is in most folic acids in like most rice, grains, pastas, breads, any type of
Mm-hmm.
carb thing, um, that makes a kid's mind race like they're on cocaine. Well, fucking, you give a kid a pastry for breakfast, or you give him cereal, or you give him a Pop Tart, and then they're like, "Whoa, little Johnny can't concentrate in school." Well, a big part of it is fucking kids are active as fuck. You're not gonna get a kid to just, oh yeah, gotta work on this
And
subject,
that's
fill
what I
this
mean by
paper out.
everyone's wired a little bit different. And so how can you
Yeah,
suppress
it's a
someone?
fucking cookie cutter way, yet we're not cookie fucking cutter
Yeah.
projects. And that's what really pissed me off about the school system, because like it's like, well, this is how it is. It's like it doesn't have to be that way
Yeah.
though, but you want it to be because, well, the government wants it to be that way because they want fucking employees, they want people paying taxes, they want people to shut the fuck up, listen,
And just listen and do exactly as I tell you to
and
do.
pay us your taxes, and you can have a good life and we'll take care of you. It's like, oh, well, you're not taking care of us though. We're at a silent fucking World War III right now. We have submarines off the fucking coast of Florida. We have countries we're the fucking laughing stock of the world right now. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm not fucking sorry at all, actually. But growing up, our president was to be the fucking standard of the country that we fucking live in. And that's not what we have right now. What we
Absolutely
have right
not.
now is a bunch of fucking bullshit. Sorry, I'm only 25 and I know I don't know shit. And I know that some people out there will 100% disagree with me. I really don't give a fuck. This is my opinion and don't really fucking care. But dude, I don't know if I'm looking at a fucking ice cream taste tester or if I'm looking at a fucking senior citizen home fucking episode of some fucking show, or watching a comedy show like an SNL, like Saturday Night Live, as of what the debate was supposed to be. Dude, I'm sorry, but that shit pisses me off to the core. Like, that's why honestly I try not to pay attention to this shit, because it pisses me off, because I'm like, dude, if that fucking person can be in the position that they're in and run shit, anyone can be the fucking president.
Yeah.
Anyone can be anything. I'm like, how? And some of the conversations nowadays, whether this person can be here and do this, and I change to this, like, dude, how are these even fucking conversations? Like, people are so fucking delusional nowadays that it mind blows me that these are
It's ridiculous.
half of the fucking things that people talk about. I don't even know how it's a conversation. I really don't. I don't understand, because, and they push this shit of mental illness nowadays, yet the most thing that's, I think personally, mental illness is pushed as we have to accept all this bullshit. And that's my personal opinion. People don't have to agree with it. And they want to say it's a choice. And I'm like, I'll tell you something right now. Me as a guy, I'll tell you something. Guys see a hot female and they want to look at it. We're attracted to multiple females. But let me tell you something. It comes to a point to where it's a choice between being with one woman or multiple women. Are we hardwired to want to be with just one woman? Kind of not really, because we see women. It's like, oh yeah, it's like a dog with a bone. When a dog sees his bone, it's like, oh yeah, no, chew on it. Sees another bone, it's like, ooh, another bone. But when that dog wants to just be a dog, that's why they call them guys or dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go after that other bone. It's like, nah, dude, you got one fucking good bone. Keep chewing on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one thing. That's why I don't agree with all that bullshit nowadays. It's like, well, I was born this way. I don't fucking believe that, because also at the same time, some people will say, well, I was born in the wrong body and all this shit. Well, meanwhile, on the same side, you have people saying I was born this way. Well, which fucking way is it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, y'all can't even fucking decide within your own fucking congregation or whatever kind of bullshit you want to believe in. And it just... I think it's comical, but it's also the fucking saddest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's stuck in
La La Land.
Yeah, you know,
daydreaming,
that they just
but living
don't know what the fuck is honestly going on, and that's what kind of I feel like is almost fucking our country at this point. Is everyone's so worried about this stupid little thing versus actually what's going on in the big picture, you know? And so and that's where I think if they can keep, you know, the nation as a whole or whatever in a thought of this little thing that's going on, that we'll be blind to what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Well, you know, one thing that I've come to realize is the actual amount of people that actually want all that is very fucking slim, and the amount of people that don't want that is very large, but yet the slimmer ones have a voice because the squeaky wheel gets the fucking grease. And the world isn't bad because of the bad people in it. It's bad because the good people in it won't fucking speak up for what they fucking want and how things fucking should be. It's the people that have the right ideology and have the right mindset and can set the standards, but they don't fucking speak up for themselves. Like, no one wants to speak about shit nowadays. Everyone wants to be like, oh yeah, we can't talk about that.
But the only thing that I don't get is
you'll hurt someone's feelings.
Anywhere and do something, like I was at the lake today. You know, you talk to anyone about this stuff, and they're all relatively like-minded of what they want. And so I'm honestly at a point of I've kind of realized it's the people who aren't doing shit with their lives, as bad as that is to say, that are the ones that are in that mindset, you know.
Yeah.
And if people were to wake up and just want better for themselves, that they would take that 2 seconds to look at what's going on and realize this is what's holding us back, you know. And so I don't know how to say that in a nice way, but that's just how I look at it, as in everyone that I know who is doing fairly well for themselves is looking at it in that full picture. Yeah. And it's the people who can't see it for a full picture that are, you know, just completely oblivious to what's actually going on.
Yeah. And see, that's another thing is, like, you know, people on one side or the other, the one side is so uneducated about shit, yet they rattle off shit like they fucking know what they're talking about. And then you'll bring up a fact and they're like, well, where'd you get that? What is that? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe you should fucking study something besides just saying random shit you heard off of your fucking Joe Blow friend. Maybe you should actually look into some shit. Learn about finances. Learn about how taxes work, you know? Like, in the debate the other day was the president was talking about how the previous president had these tax breaks and how that all that did was benefit the wealthy. Actually, no, it didn't. You want to go look at fucking gas prices? Look at the gas prices now.
Yeah.
Fucking skyrocketed high. Go look at fucking food. They're 4 times the fucking price. Go look at fucking clothes. 4 times the fucking price. Go look at fucking anything,
And
dude.
and even with like the food, they try to press that. Oh well, but yeah, food prices have went up, but we're also lowering taxes.
Taxes aren't lower, though.
It also doesn't fucking matter even if you lower the taxes, because you're lowering the taxes by, what we're taxing, maybe 10%, 9 something, whatever, for food tax here in Kansas. But at the same time, food prices have went up 50%. So how is that helping me in any way, shape, or form?
Well,
you're taking 10% out, but you're adding 50% to the price.
yeah.
So in all a sense, food prices and shit are still going up.
Yeah, so see, back in 2020, I used to buy this from Dollar General. I used to get this fucking bag of chopped up fajita style flavored chicken. It was $5.45 or 49 cents, right? That same bag of chicken now is $12 and something cents.
And so that's what I mean.
It's fucking outrageous.
But we cut taxes on your food price by 25%. Okay, so take even 25% off of that. It's still nowhere close to what the fuck I used to be paying for.
Yeah. And then they're like, well, we added these, these programs where you can maybe get a benefit for college loans or whatever else. And it's like, you realize that the dollar amount has literally dropped by this %. So actually, it didn't even level out. I'm still negative more than what originally had to begin with. Like, the dollar amount continues to drop.
So
it's just a joke, dude. Like,
and that's where I try not to get too into politics, because I know how what is the word, controversive it can be, but at the same time, that in my opinion there's one clear winner.
yeah.
And so like I said, I try not to get into it too much, just because you can cause so many fights between people, but at the same time, to me, it's not a debate. This is the facts. This is how it is. If you don't see it, you're kind of blind.
And another thing, I'm going to go back to the whole if I became president deal. Another thing I would fucking change, no foreign countries are allowed to buy any land within inside U.S. fucking land whatsoever. No organizations, no LLCs, no fucking nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No one outside of this country is to own any land within this country. That's bullshit. They're buying up farmland all over the fucking U.S. And I was listening to a podcast
just for us to buy back whatever they get from our land.
Well, and that's the thing. I was listening to this podcast the other day, and over in Arizona, I'm not going to say the country, very big country, is buying up all this fucking farmland and everything. No one knows why and all this stuff. And a lot of it happens to be around military bases, which I don't think is a fucking coincidence whatsoever. But one of the things in Arizona, is this company was drilling way down the ground to get the fucking water out of the ground, bottling it, sending it there, using it also for all the pork in the U.S. because that country owns one for every 4 pigs. That country owns one of them, and what they're doing is using all the water, and what they're doing is stealing our water in a way. They're technically allowed to because they own the land. You can take up any water out of the ground that you want, but they're taking so much to where regular wells and shit aren't getting water. In order to get down to where you can even reach the aquifer, it's like $250,000, so people can't afford it. So now they're selling the ranches and shit. And, well, who's buying those fucking ranches? That same fucking company. Dude, all they're doing is buying us out, buying our own fucking country because we're selling it out. There's land here in Dickinson County that's sold to a corporation in California that's also part of that same country's communist party. And people don't even fucking realize what's happening.
Crazy. Yeah.
Because we have so much bullshit going on in our own government that we can't even see how we're being attacked.
All the stuff in the background you don't ever hear about because we're so worried about there's 52 genders, you know?
We're definitely getting canceled now, boys.
Fuck. To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. All of it's confusing. But if there was... Okay. I'm going to go back. Since we're only 24, 25, if there was a piece of advice that you would offer your 16-year-old self, what would it be?
Honestly, it would be whatever you are thinking your life is going to be now, don't believe it.
What do you mean by that? Dive deeper.
And so not that, like, you might want something, you know, to happen or want a career, and I'm not talking about that. I'm more talking about, so you might get with a girl, or you might, you know, think your whole life is planned out and be diving deep into it. And at that point, just focus on yourself and that career or that path you want to go down versus what you think is going to be, you know, best for you and who you're with, or what that, you know,
focus on yourself.
Yeah, just really focus on yourself and get what you honestly want in life, because in the end, 99%
never settle.
Yeah, 99% of what you think is going to happen right now won't.
Yeah, dude, life will never turn out exactly what you think it's going to be like.
So,
won't even be close.
That's my biggest piece of advice, is just focus on yourself. You know, try to set you up for success in the future. Don't just settle for what you have right now. Is probably my best piece of advice for myself.
Yeah, I'm like the hopeless romantic, I think is what it's called, or something like that. Fucking be a hopeless romantic, however you want to pronounce that, into your fucking goals and the things you want in life. Fucking give it your fucking all.
It's going to get you so much farther and so much more in the long run of, just like I said, because of what you think is going to go right now, 99% of the time won't.
Yeah.
And so if you focus on yourself, down the road, there'll be so much more for you that's going to come along, and you're just going to be set up for it. So that's where I would say just focus on yourself and what you want, and everything else will come to you.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, my thing would be to tell whoever is listening, stay living with your parents, because you ain't got to fucking rent and all that shit. Take that money, put it into buying, if you have a dream truck, whatever the fuck it is, if you have someone to co-sign for you, co-sign a loan on getting that. Especially, for me personally, I'm speaking specifically really about a truck. Buy your fucking dream truck. Build that shit out how you want it. Spend the rest of your money on figuring out what it is you need to do and how to get to where it is that you want to go. Because everyone wants to have a nice vehicle that they like, their dream vehicle. Fucking get that shit and spend the money on the things it takes to get to where you want to get.
And I will say the exact same thing, and I actually respect that and I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily put yourself in debt, but if you have a path you want to go.
Started out early though.
I was gonna say, but if you have a path you want to go that you know is gonna to be able to afford what you want, do it, and whatever that loan is, whatever is gonna keep you in it until you're secured in that path, if that makes sense. And so when you want to quit, you don't have any choice but to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And so it's just that one more step, and it might not even be buying that truck, but just tell even the people you know, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. That way, when it comes down to it, you have someone even then again like that you're gonna let down if you don't.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be that one more push to keep doing what you're doing. It might be hard, it might be what you don't want to do, but to have that extra push of, at one point in time, this is what I want to do, you know, and so just always it just keeps keeps it in your mind of where I'm at now, 2 years ago, is where I used to dream I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps you pushing along of, this is what I wanted, and this is where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's one thing I would say is, if you have a dream, if you can picture, this is the house I want, this is the vehicle I want, this is the wife I want, you hold that motherfucker tighter than you can hold anything, and you spend all your time and effort and money fucking getting that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you let life fucking... Then you have some fun after that.
Yeah.
Spend fucking life getting the things you fucking want. Because if you're not living life to how you want, you know,
You're not having fun.
you're not fucking... If you're not enjoying life, then what is the point in living?
Yeah. So you gotta enjoy what you have, and that's where I say, like, and that's, I always try to look back of, I might not be having the greatest things in the moment of exactly what I want, but I always try to look back of, you know, a year ago, I wish I could have been in this point.
Yeah.
And so then again, and as soon as I look at that, I keep pushing, and a year from now, I'm gonna look back and be like, you know, a year ago, I wish I was in this point.
Yeah.
You know, and so you just keep pushing farther ahead, and before you know it, you're gonna be doing great. And you don't see it in the day to day, but when you look back is when you see how far you've come.
Yeah, 100%. Is there anything that you want to ask me before we hop off this?
Not really. I think we've, you know, just kind of covered a lot, and
Yeah.
you know, have fun talking. So
Hell yeah, man. Well, I fucking appreciate you fucking doing the podcast. Had a lot of fun. Talked about a lot of things, and it's been a fucking good time.
hell yeah,
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
absolutely.